Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm your host, Daniel Davis. We have a wonderful guest who has spent the last 25 years living and promoting consciousness through all forms of media. She is one of the founding partners of the Spiritual Cinema Circle, a DVD club dedicated to providing movies about love and compassion. She is also author of 7 books, including the Hot Chocolate for the Mystical Soul series, and her newest book, The Soulmate Secret, Manifest the Love of Your Life with the Law of Attraction. And I think that's what probably each and every one of us want, is a really good, solid soulmate by our side. I'd like to welcome to our program today our guest, Ariel Ford. And Ariel, welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today.
Thank you, Daniel. How are you?
Well, you know, every day with sunshine is a good day.
Especially in your part of the world.
Yeah, especially in our part of the world. Now, it's interesting because you have really dedicated a tremendous part of your life toward, inspiring stories, people of inspiration, and, here we are now on the cusp of probably one of the most challenging times where people at times feel alone and isolated and really want to attract that soul mate. What has been your experience with this since this book has been out?
Well, I was just at a big fundraiser last night, and I ran into 2 different men who had read The Soulmate Secret, and both of them had their fiancés on their arm. So my experience has been that what worked for me is working for everybody else. That if you put a little time, intention, and attention on your love life, you can manifest the love of your dreams.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about how you would describe what a soulmate exactly is. People tend to have the idea, but then they fling it around a lot, sort of like, I don't know, a commodity, if you will. But it's a lot more than that. No, really, this is my soulmate. Okay, well, then 3 weeks later, you guys aren't together. I guess I made a mistake. It's like, it's crazy that way.
Well, for me, a soulmate is somebody that you can completely be yourself with, somebody that you love unconditionally, who loves you unconditionally. And when you look into each other's eyes, you have the experience of being home. So that's how I describe a soulmate. And we can have many soulmates in our life, and often we have them already and we're not recognizing them. So my book, The Soulmate Secret, is about a romantic soulmate, but we have best friends, co-workers, business partners, children, parents, sisters, brothers, neighbors who also fit that description of a soulmate. And one of the most public examples of this is Gayle King and Oprah Winfrey. I mean, if that's not a soulmate best friendship, I don't know what is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, that's the thing, is I think sometimes people believe there's just that one soulmate. It's in the romantic realm of a loving relationship as a couple. But the truth is, as you just said, there are many of them.
Yeah, and one of the fastest ways to bring more love into your life is by acknowledging and being grateful for the love you already have. So when people say to me, oh, well, I've done everything, I've tried everything, and it's just not working, I like to remind them of my favorite line in A Course in Miracles, which is, the only thing that can be lacking in any situation is that which you are not giving. So
I totally agree with that.
Right. So if you want more love in your life, the very first place to start is by giving more love. Mm-hmm. There's no shortage of people that we all know that could use a hug today. I mean, all of us know lots of people are having all kinds of problems, money problems, health problems, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've certainly noticed in my life, most of the people I know are in breakdown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It certainly seems to be the case.
Yeah, and, we could say, oh, it's a bad thing, but, it's just how it is, and we've got to accept it and help each other out and give each other more hugs and love and support and get through it. And, if you want to manifest the love of your life, there's a couple of easy steps to begin with. So the first one is forgiveness. You need to forgive yourself for all the things that you're judging yourself for having done wrong in the past when it comes to relationships. And then the hard part for a lot of people is to start forgiving the people that you're judging as having done you wrong. Because before you start using these powerful manifestation tools, you want to clear the past. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you end up doing what my sister Debbie calls trying to put ice cream on top of poop. And that's pretty clear.
Yeah, I would say so. A different taste anyway, that's for sure.
All right, so if you're going around and you're still in anger and resentment and upset over your last breakup, and I know most of us are, got to find a way to get through it. And in the Soulmate Secret, there's various different techniques that we use, and if it's an ongoing serious problem, this is why God invented therapists and coaches.
Right.
You know, because we all need help sometimes. I know I always like to use this example. When my computer breaks down, I know that I'm not qualified to fix it. I call an expert. I call Geek right away to come help me. You know, so if you're having ongoing relationship issues, you know, reach out to somebody. There are plenty of skilled people out there. And if you don't know any, on my website, soulmatesecret.com, in my favorite links section, I link to all kinds of relationship coaches that can help you.
It's so true, too, that there are resources out there for people, especially if it comes to a breakup that you've had in a relationship. The first step you tend to take is you'll talk with a close friend or even maybe your parents or, you know, your brothers or sisters. And it's interesting when you see people out on new dates, the kind of conversations they have when it comes to relating about their last relationship. And, well, it was like this, and I just wasn't looking for that. And I'm thinking, you know, here's some keys here just in this date alone that you can take a look at ways that you can forgive yourself so you don't have to bring this story to a date. Because, really, who wants to listen to that?
Yeah, it's really dreadful when you get two people together and all they're doing is commiserating on the pain of the past rather than exploring each other. So, yeah, and you know, listen, we all go through it until we figure it out. But there is help out there, and you know, if you've had multiple bad relationships, chances are a single book isn't going to help you figure it out. You may need to actually open your heart and get a little vulnerable with a therapist who can work through it with you.
That's for sure. Now, I know that in your book you talked about a woman who manifested her soulmate with crayons. Now, what was that all about? Did she just start lighting these things in a circle? Or?
Actually, it's a really funny story. My friend Gail had gone to an astrologer to find out when she would meet her soulmate. And the astrologer gave her homework and handed her a mandala, which is you know what it is. It's a piece of sacred geometry with lots of little spaces in it. It's quite cool. And told her to go home, get out the big box of crayons, and color in each of the little spaces in the mandala while she spoke out loud the traits her soulmate would possess. So Gail went home, and she got out the crayons, and she took the red crayon and colored in the first little triangle space and said, "My soulmate will appreciate my sense of humor." And then she took the green crayon and colored in another one and said, "My soulmate will be kind to strangers." And took out the yellow crayon and said, "My soulmate will love animals." And on and on and on, all the different traits she wanted him to have, until there was only one little space left. And she thought about it for the longest time, and finally she took out the orange crayon and colored in and said, "My soulmate will have a really cute butt." She was only 24 at the time, and that was important to her.
Of course.
So later on that day, she decided...
You certainly don't want a couch potato butt, that's for sure.
No, some people do. She ended up going to the gym, and she met this guy, and he asked her out for a couple nights in the future. They go to dinner at this Mexican restaurant, and, you know, one of the first things she notices about him is how polite and kind he is to the waitress. And then she starts to notice that he gets her wacky sense of humor. And an hour into the date, he starts talking about how much he loves his dog. And, you know, slowly but surely, everything she asks for starts to show up. And they end up spending 4 hours together at dinner. And then he took her home, walked her to the front door, asked her out on another date, gave her a really big kiss. And as he walked away, she noticed he had a really cute butt. And that was 26 years ago, and they're still happily married. So, you know, you can get this mandala for free on my website. It's at soulmatesecret.com. There's a section called Free Stuff, It's actually in the great stuff area. You have to hunt around, but you can download the mandala. You can use it to manifest a soulmate or actually manifest anything you want, a new car, new job, new house. It works for everything.
Now, because there seems to be such a large focus this day and age, especially within the last couple of years of movies like The Secret or What the Bleep Do We Know, people have been really having the law of attraction on the tip of their tongue. And it seems from my experience, at least in talking with people, that they've kind of slighted that to mean, okay, there's a law of attraction, which means that if I just sit around and I intend something, that it should just come to me whether I make an effort or not. That seems to be at least the attitude anyway. But in truth, from what you're sharing here and what you talk about in your book, the law of attraction is also the law of action. Would you agree with that?
Yes, with a caveat. So the law of attraction says we bring to us the people, places, and experiences that match our state of being. So if you're saying, oh, I really want the love of my life, and you don't feel in every cell of your body that that's possible, that you deserve it, that you already have it, then it's never going to happen, because one of the most important parts of manifesting is knowing that what you've asked for is already yours. And it's kind of a paradox, and it's hard for people to grasp if they've never done it before. So one of the things that I recommend that you do is that you practice living as if. So if I said to you, and I know you already have your soulmate, but let's pretend that you don't. If I said to you, your soulmate is going to arrive within 7 days, I absolutely guarantee it. Chances are lots of things about you would instantly change. You would carry yourself a little bit differently. You'd be smiling more. You would be clearing the clutter from your house. You'd be preparing to have them there. If you needed to buy new sheets, you'd be doing that. You might be buying tickets to concerts or plays that you would take them to, or buy them greeting cards, or writing in your journal a message to them that you're going to show them someday about how excited you are that they're coming. So you're practicing and living with every cell of your body, knowing that the one you've asked for is already yours. And so, people sometimes say, oh, well, I'm going to do a visualization. But a visualization doesn't work without the emotion behind it, which is why I've renamed these things feelingizations, because you actually need to be able to feel that what you've asked for is yours. So at soulmatesecret.com, in the free stuff area, you can also download feelingizations for free to start practicing what it feels like to be reminded and remembering and re-experiencing the feelings of love, appreciation, and gratitude.
Now, I know, Ariel, as you found your soulmate, which is Brian, and I've had the pleasure to meet him a couple of times, actually. Is that when it comes to attracting a soulmate, here's what I find interesting. Back when they were running those reality TV shows like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, you kind of take a look at that and go, well, it seems such a whitewash here because everybody just looks too perfect. But then at the end, as the Bachelorette finally says, well, I've proclaimed this guy to be the love of my life, and they're standing in front of a house that resembles the White House, and you watch the girls just eating this up as they're watching television, and I'm thinking, okay, you want that romance, but it seems that women, at least younger women this day and age, once they get it, they think that it's just too unreal, and then they want somebody who isn't treating them so well. And I think, then why are you wanting that if, in fact, you're just going to cast it aside? And it comes down to a point where when a person wants a particular someone with certain characteristics, the question comes then, are you prepared or ready? Or are you going to be the person that person you're wishing for wants?
Wow.
I know it seems like a mouthful, but the truth is, you were talking about how you prepare with the law of attraction is by, you being or living as if, but sometimes people just don't carry that through.
Well, I always tell people you have to be careful what you ask for.
Exactly.
And you need to really know, you need to know yourself. What's really going to make your heart sing? I tell people one of the first steps is making a soulmate wish list, and they think, oh, of course, that's so easy. But it's not so easy, because you really need to know what are the traits and qualities and a description of your lifestyle that is what you want. You mentioned earlier couch potato. Now, if you're a couch potato, you're not going to be happy with somebody who's always training for a triathlon and then playing 36 holes of golf every weekend.
Right.
You need to be specific. What kind of things do you want to do together? Do you want somebody who's generous, not just with their wallet, but with their time and their attention? Because you could manifest everything on your list. I want the 6'2", dark-haired, rich, blah, 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 private plane, all of that. But those kind of people don't come with a lot of time and energy and attention to spend on you.
Right.
So,
That's sort of the big point I guess I was making, is just that.
Yeah, no, so it's really important to know, which is why all the bad relationships you've had are so valuable, because you can go back and look at those relationships and ask yourself, well, what about this person did work for me? Because we all know what we don't want. But in the law of attraction, you can't ask for what you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be really specific about what is going to serve you. So you can't say, well, don't give me X, Y, and Z, because chances are that's exactly what you'll get. One of the easiest ways for me to explain this is there's a great scene in the movie Conversations with God where the character Neil is yelling at God, and he's screaming at him, and he's saying, I just want my life back. And God says to him, you can't have anything that you want. And the reason for this is because when we're in the experience of wanting, all we get is more wanting.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in the experience of gratitude, I am so grateful that my perfect right partner is here in my life now. What you get is what you're grateful for. Does that make sense?
It does, because it was just reminding me of someone that I had known a couple of years ago that was in a heartbreak. And the one glaring thing that she would say to me that was coming out is, I just want to be loved. And I said, well, why don't you start loving yourself first? And for that moment, she just kind of looked at me, and it was a couple of weeks later we came, and she says, I couldn't believe how right you were about that. That I was so busy looking for love outside of myself that I forgot about loving myself first. And I said, that's how you're going to find the kind of love that you really want, because you're going to have enough in yourself to share with someone else.
Yeah, it's so true. And, self-love, this is what Louise Hay's work is all about, looking in the mirror every day and saying, good morning, Daniel, you're just so wonderful, I love you so much. Or I was with Sark in Phoenix the other day, and she was talking about how every morning she starts by rolling around in her own bed, hugging herself and getting her endorphins going. Or Dr. Christiane Northrup told me, every time I walk past a mirror, I blow myself a kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these may sound silly, but if you're going to not love you, how can you expect somebody else to love you?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It was about 6 months ago, give or take, that we had a guy on the program, and he talks about the Hawaiian method of healing known as Ho'oponopono.
Oh, I love Ho'oponopono.
Yeah, isn't that neat? And just for the listeners out there.
Please forgive me, thank you, and I'm
sorry.
And
I love you. And I love you, I believe, is how it goes. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact, it's interesting. That close enough, anyway. But the point is, as he was talking about, is the fact is, you ever notice that when we're in a problem, that we're right there? And in knowing that, it's the same thing with gratitude. So you get the best of both worlds with just that simple, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And it goes, and the same as attracting a soulmate as well, for every little step that you take, thank you, I love you. You share gratitude. So it works across the board there. And I think that's just really fascinating how it works in a law of attraction.
Yeah, gratitude's really one of the key things that turns it on. Mm-hmm. And, so many people spend more time planning their vacation than they do planning their life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is, It's like, okay, I want to go to Paris. I need a hotel, I need airfare, I need a guidebook, restaurant guide. Well, you know what? This is the rest of your life. Do you want to spend it with somebody you love? Then, go to Amazon.com, spend $16.11, and buy the Soulmate Secret. It really, truly works.
Now, let's talk about, because our show is dedicated to the people who are approaching in or just past midlife in a period of time that you see such tremendous transition. I mean, you're looking at kids leaving the house, you're looking at your parents becoming aged. I mean, you're kind of sandwiched in between, and sometimes you feel like you lose your life in that respect. And this is a time where maybe relationships begin to fade away because the kids are out of the house, so now the couple just decides they no longer see any reason to be together, or there's a death. And so you see people in this age, and they're thinking to themselves, God, I'm a lot older now. Is it too late for me to attract a soulmate? How does the Soulmate Secrets address that?
Oh, it's so easy. My 80
I wouldn't give you a complicated problem, at least not willingly.
No, it's a piece of cake. So I'm going to tell you the story about my 80-year-old mother-in-law, Peggy, who lives in Portland. Peggy was married for 55 years. She was a widow for 5 years. And at the age of 80, she called me up and said, you know what, I've decided I'm ready for another relationship. And so we talked about law of attraction and the Soulmate Secret. 3 weeks later, she calls me up. She says, I have a date. I said, you do? How did you do that? She said, well, you know, I made my list, and I got very clear about my intention, and she went through all the different steps. And she said, and then a friend of mine, one of her friends who's much younger than her, came over, got her online. She said, have you ever heard of this website called Match.com? I said, yeah, of course I have. She said, well, we went on to Match.com, and there were 3 men in my age category, and one of them's a retired lawyer, like my dear departed Wayne, and I sent him an email, and then he called me, and we spoke for 3 hours, and now we're going to have lunch tomorrow. I want to make a long story short. They fell madly in love, and he proposed, and she said, you know, I was married for 55 years. I don't need to be married. So they're now living together, and they couldn't be happier.
Fantastic. You see, folks, it's never too late.
It is never too late. I can't tell you how many of my friends in their 40s, 50s, and 60s are getting clear about the kind of person they want and, you know, really taking a few steps and making it happen. Mm.
Now, you talk about feathering the nest. What exactly does that mean? Is that kind of cleaning out your house, or what exactly?
Okay, so let's say you're in your 50s and you're divorced and you want to start dating again and manifesting a soulmate. If you went around your house, chances are everywhere you turn, there are going to be photographs and mementos of your ex, you and your ex, you and your kids, you and this big life that you've had. It could be intimidating to whoever you're bringing in to be surrounded by all these other people.
Oh, I could believe that.
Yeah, so what you want to do is you don't want to throw these things away. Just put them in a box and put them away. Clear out the clutter, you know, make some space for them, and I mean literal space. Make empty space in your closet. Clean out a drawer in your dresser that you leave totally empty. Make sure the nightstand on their side of the bed is completely empty. And I can hear people out there thinking right now, I am never going to live in this same place when I meet my soulmate. Doesn't matter. You still want to create the space because the universe abhors a vacuum. So you want to create the literal space. Then you want to clear out energetically the space of your ex, particularly if they lived in this place with you. You can get a professional energy worker, or you can do it yourself using the Native American technique of smudging, or if all of that sounds too weird, on a nice sunny day, open all the doors, all the windows, take a broom, and symbolically sweep out the old energy. Mm-hmm. So those are what I mean by feathering the nest.
Ah, that's interesting. Now, as we've been talking here and our listeners are tuning in, what are 3 things that you could tell our listeners that they can do in this coming week to begin putting into practice what we've been talking about?
I would say the number one thing you want to do is start making your soulmate wish list. Start writing down the traits and qualities you want this person to possess and a description of what your life together looks like. It's really important you think about that. You know, like imagine it's Saturday. From the moment you open your eyes in the morning, where do you go? What do you do? What are you experiencing? What are you feeling? Start, you know, really putting that down on paper. And then once you have your wish list, I would then create a vision board, or what they call a treasure map, and cut out pictures and images and words from magazines and collage them onto a piece of poster board. so it becomes a visual representation of the future that you're creating. Mm-hmm. And then finally, I would say that I would, start to think about a daily prayer that you could say. And there's one in my book, if you don't want to write your own, that a prayer of gratitude for knowing that the one that you've asked for is already yours and is on the way to you.
It's just such powerful stuff, and you consider the fact that when you put the book out, you said you've actually had men come with fiancés on their arms, and they probably just were left scratching their head thinking, how did you come up with all of this? But anybody who's known your body of work would understand from a lot of resources that are just quite amazing.
I'm sorry, what did you say? I just completely, my brain just...
Well, I was just simply saying that as this book is out, and you were describing earlier in the program about a couple of men who showed up after reading the book with their fiancés on their arms, is that, you kind of think, well, how did she create a book like this? How come something like that wasn't out there in the first place?
I was at this fundraiser till so late last night. I'm sorry, my brain's a little foggy. I never actually meant to write this book. Everything that's in the book is what I used 12 years ago to manifest Brian. Mm-hmm. And, over the years, every time I'd meet a single woman over 40, they'd pull me aside and say, how do I manifest a Brian? Mm-hmm. And I would always tell them, and eventually it became obvious that people wanted it, so HarperCollins asked me to write the book. So that's kind of what happened. It just birthed itself, and it really is everything that I use that has worked for me and dozens of my friends and hundreds of my readers. Mm-hmm.
Well, very good. I think we can all use not just one, many soulmates to get us navigated through, especially this day and age, how times seem pretty tough. But it gives you the strength and the buoyance to get up every day and realize that each step in life is worth taking, especially if you have support and you're someone who supports others. And a book certainly like Soulmate Secrets will be just that, to get people moving forward. We want to thank you for being here on the program today.
It's great to talk to you.
Mm-hmm. And again, the book is The Soulmate Secret, Manifest the Love of Your Life with the Law of Attraction, and our guest today, Ariel Ford. And go ahead and give out your website again.
It's soulmatesecret.com, and as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of good free stuff and fun stuff to look at on the site, and you can also sign up for my weekly e-newsletter.
Very good. Well, Ariel, again, thank you for joining us here on the program today. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care. Bye.
You bet. And we also encourage you to join us at our website at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50 with a 50. Sign up for our free weekly e-newsletter, and also visit our blog where we archive our shows as well as our great resource information as well. We want to thank you again for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis, and remember, live your day past halfway.